Storytimers! It's your favorite Storytimer, Annie! And her best pal, E. E, wake up, dude. Wake up.
Sorry, guys. I was asleep and I accidentally breathed in something yucky.
Ew, E, just go throw that up.
Okay.
Anyways, for today's awesomely cool adventure, we're going to be diving into the world of The Indian in the Cupboard by Lynn Reed Banks.
I love Indian in the cupboard.
Oh, well, anyways, and last time we left off on that amazing chapter of all entirely good inventions. We left off on shooting mash. Alright, let's see. Okay, so this is page 112, and sadly it doesn't start at the beginning of a sentence, so I'm just going to read at the top page anyways. Do the same. All might yet be well, but Omri certainly wasn't going to try the experiment again. It was all just too much worry. He climbed into bed feeling unusually tired. His mother came in and kissed him, and the door was shut. He felt himself drifting off almost right away, when suddenly a piercing whine sounded and was answered by another. The horses had smelled each other. They were not so far apart, and the cowboys wasn't tied up. Omri could hear his little hooves clattering on the bare boards of the crate, and then the whinnies began again, high, shrill, almost questioning. Omri thought of putting on his light, but he was awful tired. Besides, what could he do? They couldn't possibly reach each other through the planks of the crate wall. Let them whinny their heads off. They'd soon get fed up. Omri rolled over and fell asleep. He was awakened just after dawn by shots. He was out of bed in about 1/5 of a second. One glance into the crate showed him all too clearly that the cowboy and his horse had escaped. We got a little horse on our hands and a little guy as well. The second glance showed how a nut in the wood had been pushed out or perhaps kicked out by the horse, leaving an oval-shaped hole like an arched doorway, just big enough to let horse and rider through. Omri looked around widely. At first he could see nothing. He dropped to his knees beside the seed box and peered into the longhouse. Little Bear was not there, nor was his horse. Suddenly some tiny thing whizzed past Omri's ear and struck the crate behind him with a ping. What could it be? Well, twisting his head, Omri saw it, a feathered arrow the size of a pin, still quivering from its flight. Was Little Bear shooting at him? Little Bear, where are you? No answer, but suddenly a movement like that of a mouse caught the corner of his eye. It was the cowboy dragging his horse behind him. He was running half bent over from behind one chair leg to another. He had his revolver in his hand, his hat on his head. Another arrow flew, missing the crate this time, and burying itself in the carpet, just ahead of the running cowboy, who stopped dead, jumped backward till his horse hit him, and then fired another 2 shots from behind the horse's shoulder. Omri, following his aim, spotted Little Bear at once. He and his horse were behind a small heap of cloth, which was like a snow-covered hill to them, but was actually Omri's vest, dropped carelessly on the floor the night before. And if you don't want to drop your vests carelessly, then like and subscribe to the channel. Little Bear, safe in the shelter of this cotton mountain, was just preparing to shoot another arrow at the cowboy, one that could hardly fail to hit its mark. The poor fellow was now, and you can see that there's Omri watching the whole scene unfold before his very eyes, and I think that's the cowboy and horse. Now, let's continue. Scrambling desperately onto his horse to try to ride away, and was in full sight of the Indian as he drew back his bowstring. Little Bear, stop! Omri's frenzied voice rang out. Little Bear did not stop, but his surprise spoiled his aim, and the arrow sped over the cowboy, doing no worse than sweep away his big hat and pin it to the baseboard behind the chair. This infuriated the little man, who, forgetting his fear, stood up in his stirrups and shouted, "Tarnation take you, you red varmint! Wait till I catch you! I'll have your stinking red hide for a sleeping bag!" With that, he rode straight toward the Vest Hill at full gallop, shouting out strange cowboy war cries, "Yee-haw!" and waving his gun, which by Omri's count still had 2 bullets in it. Little Bear had not expected this, but he was only outfaced for a moment. Then he coolly drew another arrow from his quiver and fitted it to his bow. "Little Bear, if you shoot, I'll pick you up and squeeze you!" Omri cried. Little Bear kept his arrow pointing toward the oncoming horseman. "What you do if you shoot?" he asked. "He won't shoot. Look at him." Sure enough, the carpet was too soft for much galloping, and even as Omri spoke, the cowboy's horse stumbled and fell, pitching its rider over its head. Little Bear lowered his bow and laughed. "Ha ha ha!" Then, to Omri's horror, he laid down the bow among the folds of the vest, reached for his knife, and began to advance on the prostrate cowboy. "Little Bear, you are not to touch him. Do you hear?" Little Bear stopped. He tried to shoot Little Bear. White enemy. Try to take Indian's land. Why not kill? Better dead. I act quick. He not feel, you see? And he began to move forward again. When he was nearly up to the cowboy, Omri swooped on him. He didn't squeeze him, of course, but he did lift him high and fast enough to give him a fright. "Listen to me now. That cowboy isn't after your land. He's got nothing to do with you. He's Patrick's cowboy, like you're my Indian. I'm taking him to school with me today, so you won't be bothered by him anymore. Now you take your horse and get back to your longhouse and leave him to me." Little Bear, sitting cross-legged in the palm of his hand, gave him a sly look. "You take him to school? Place you learn about ancestors?" "That's what I said." He folded his arms, offended. "Why you not take Little Bear?" Omri was startled into silence. "If I fool with coward's face good enough, Indian chief good enough, you wouldn't enjoy it." "If he enjoy, I enjoy." "I'm not taking you. It's too risky." "Risky? Firewater?" "Not whiskey. Risky. Dangerous." "You shouldn't have said that." Little Bear's eyes lit up. "Like danger. Here too quiet. No hunting. Him only enemy," he said scornfully, peering over the edge of Omri's hand at the cowboy, who, despite the softness of his landing place, was only just scrambling to his feet. "Look, he no use for fight. Little Bear soon kill. Take scalp. Finish. Very good scalp," he added generously. "Fine color. Look good on belt." Omri looked across at the cowboy. He was leaning his ginger head against his saddle. It looked as if he might be crying again. Omri felt very sorry for him. "You're not going to hurt him," he said to the Indian, "because I won't let you. If he's such a coward, it wouldn't do your honor any good anyway." Little Bear's face fell and grew bullish. "No tell from scalp on belt if belong to coward or brave man," he said slyly. "Let me kill and I do dance around campfire," he coaxed. "No," Omri began. Then he changed his tactics. "All right, you kill him, but then I won't bring you a wife." The Indian looked at him a long time. Then he slowly put his knife away. "No touch. Give word. Now you give word. Take Little Bear to school. Take to plastic. Let Little Bear choose own woman." Omri considered. He could keep Little Bear in his pocket all day. No need to take any chances. If he were tempted to show the other children, well, he must resist temptation, that was all. And after school, he could take him to Yap's. The boxes with the plastic figures in them were in a corner behind a high stand. Provided there weren't too many other kids in the shop, he might be able to give Little Bear a quick look at the lady Indians before he bought one, which would be a very good thing. Otherwise, he might pick an old or ugly one without realizing it. It was so hard to see from their tiny plastic faces what they would look like when they came to life. "Okay then, I'll take you, but you must do as I tell you and not make any noise." He put him down on the seat tray gently, shooed the horse up the ramp. Little Bear tied it to his post, and Omri gave it some more rat food. Then he crawled on hands and knees over to where the cowboy was now sitting dolefully on the carpet. His horse's rein looped around his arm, looking too miserable to move. "What's the matter?" Omri asked him. The little man didn't look up. "Lost my hat," he mumbled. "Oh, is that all?" Omri reached over to the baseboard and pulled the pin-like arrow out of the wide brim of the hat. "Here it is," he said kindly, laying it in the cowboy's lap. The cowboy looked at it, looked up at Omri, then stood up and put the hat on. "You sure ain't no regular hallucination," he said. "I'm obliged to ya." Suddenly he laughed. "Just imagine thinking a piece of your delirium treatments for giving you your hat back. I just can't figure out what's going on around here. Say, are you real or was that engine real? 'Cause in case you ain't noticed, you're a dang bit sight bigger than he is. You can't both be real." "I don't think you ought to worry about it. What's your name?" The cowboy seemed embarrassed and hung his head. "My name's Boone, but the fellas call me Boo-Hoo. That's on account of I cry so easy. It's my soft heart. Show me something sad or scare me just a little, and the tears just come to my eyes. I can't help it." Omri, who had been somewhat of a crybaby himself until very recently, was not inclined to be scornful about this, and said, That's okay, only you needn't be scared of me, and as for the Indian, he's my friend, and he won't hurt you, he's promised. Now I'd like you and your horse to go back into the big crate. I'll stick the knot back in the wood. You'll feel safer. Then I'll get you some breakfast. Ben brightened visibly at this. What would you like? Oh, shucks, I ain't that hungry. Couple of bits of steak and 3 or 4 eggs sitting on a small heap of beans washed down with a jug of coffee'll suit me just dandy. You'll be lucky, thought Omri. Well, chapter 10 is breakfast, Truce, and as it's not morning anymore, I don't think I'll be very proper for me to read it. So that seems to be the end. Tune in next time for more awesome adventures with AnnieTime StoryTime.
And her best pal.
Goodbye, guys!